Hi, I'm Rachel, and I'm realizing as the month comes to an end that I haven't done any Sci-Fi September videos, except for some Friday reads where I desperately lay out what I hope to get to in speculative fiction. So I figured I should get at least one out there, and I am calling this one Sean the Book Maniac's least favorite use of his page 112 tag ever, the YA epic fantasy version. So I picked up these 3 books back in July for free at San Diego Comic-Con, and one of my major justifications was, well, if you're going to drag these books and plenty of other books back home from Comic-Con, that you have to do something bookish and booktube related with them. And since these are all 3 YA epic fantasy novels and full books, why not a page 112 tag to decide which one of the 3 I would like to read? The page 112 tag was started by Sean the Book Maniac, based off of a French prize where they create a short list by reading just that page of each book to determine the quality of the writing. So that's how I'm going to be going with this. So I'm going to start with this book. This is The Girl of Fire and Thorns by Ray Carson. The sitting cushions are absent from the dining hall that night, for there is room only for standing. Everyone mills about, pinching bits of the kitchen master's pollo pibble from blackened banana leaves and drinking sweet late-harvest wine. Several people approach me, smiling and at ease, to chatter and inquire about my well-being. They've never taken an interest before, and I realize a barrier between us is gone, ripped away by the words of a child. I can't decide whether or not I'm glad for it. I'm blissfully chewing on shredded chicken, savoring the tang of cumin and garlic across my tongue, when Condessa Arena sidles next to me, wine glass in hand. Highness. Her voice is as high and clear as Rosario's. Condessa. Are you enjoying yourself? Alejandra's court eddies around us. I want to flee to my suite and bury myself in blankets. Oh yes, I'm having a lovely time. Prince Rosario is quite charming. He is. She lifts the wine glass to pink lips, but only pretends to sip. Does she ever eat anything? And of course the pollo pibble is excellent, I say. Alejandra chose well. You should have some. I'm deeply satisfied by the hint of a question in her brow. Maybe she knows nothing about the king's food preferences. Maybe she doesn't like hearing me refer to him with such familiarity. I had some earlier. It was delicious. Of course I don't believe her. You know, she continues, and the way she looks at me with those startling honey gold eyes makes me feel like a mouse in a trap. What Rosario said, in front of everyone. No one really thinks that about you. So, ooh, I like this. There's a lot of intriguing stuff going on in here, like, what is it that the child said that changed everyone's mind about our main character, who seems to be some sort of royalty? Except that this other girl, Condessa, seems to still be pretty jealous of her. At least that's what I get from that final line, is that maybe she's threatening her about something nice that the prince said. Or maybe not. Maybe it's more of a long game, or like a sneaky game. And I like that sort of stuff. It's fun, those silly court politics stuff. And there's such beautiful descriptions of the food in here, and I'm intrigued by the fact that the culture from the food and the name seems to have a Spanish flair, so yeah, I like this one. Next we have The Wish Granter by C.J. Redwine. Men notice her curves and her skin and her... Had he lost his mind? He had no right to notice anything about the princess except that she had the power to take his job from him with a single word. Taking a step back, he schooled his expression into a blank mask. My apologies, Princess Ariana. She huffed out a little breath and shifted the cloth-wrapped bundle she held. I don't want apologies, Sebastian, unless I know what you're apologizing for. He tried to find the words that wouldn't be offensive, but there really wasn't an acceptable way to tell royalty he'd been running his eyes over her body, because somehow he'd foolishly thought it was his job to make sure she hadn't been hurt. Well, she looked at him expectantly. I promise you, this is the wrong moment to choose to be silent. I've had my fill of being treated like the way I look matters more than who I really am. He opened his mouth to assure her that he hadn't been noticing the way she looked, but he couldn't lie. He'd paid attention to the glow of her skin, the way her eyes danced with her every emotion, the curves that filled out her dress in a way that he found far more intriguing than a boy in his position had any right to. Shoving those thoughts aside, he said, I was checking to make sure you were all right. She raised a brow and her voice was flat. You were staring at my waist because you were concerned for my well-being. Really? That's the best explanation you can come up with? Yes. No, not your waist. Your hips. I was staring at your hips. Stars help him. He didn't realize how terrible that would sound until it left his mouth. Very cute, and it seems like kind of a standard flirtatious YA romance. In all honesty, this sort of thing doesn't really do much for me. I mean, maybe it would if I got to know the characters a little bit first, but on its own, you know, I get it, it's a little bit cute, I won't completely dismiss it, but it's not really something to hold my attention. And finally, we have Four Dead Queens by Astrid Schult. This is an advanced reader copy, a galley really, because I got this in July. It's coming out in February, or at least it was then. And I actually went the other day and I Voxered Steve Donahue, because I'm turning Voxer into a verb, and I asked him what he thought about like the ethics of reading page 112 aloud from an unproofed galley like this, and he thought it would be a little bit dicey, and that and I also thought maybe it's just not fair because you know, she still the author still has a lot of time to be able to make the writing a bit smoother and a bit better. So I figured I went ahead and I read page 112, and I'll summarize it and assume or hope that at least developmentally and plot-wise not a whole lot will change in a summary sort of way about what went down on page 112. Page 112 is about a princess meeting with an inquisitor to discuss the murder of a queen. And there's a little bit of tension about like if the princess is going to give away some court secrets, and there's some tension, I guess, about the bloodline, like because this queen needs an heir to, a female heir to take her place. And I guess in general, I didn't necessarily think the writing was that great. It didn't really grab me that much. It seemed very prosaic and explainy, and again, that could be something that'll change. And I guess other than that, I don't actually think that the premise of the book is that intriguing to me, but I picked it up anyway because it was a free book at Comic-Con, and that's what you do. But I figured, just to be fair, I will read about what this book is about. 17-year-old Caroline Corrington may seem harmless, but in fact she's one of Kandara's most skilled thieves and a liar. Varen, on the other hand, is an honest, upstanding citizen of Kandara's most enlightened region, Ionia. He runs afoul of Corelli when she steals a package from him, putting his life in danger. When Varen attempts to retrieve the package, he and Corelli both find themselves entangled in a conspiracy that leaves all four of Kandara's queens dead. With no other choices and on the run from Corelli's former employer, the two decide to join forces, endeavoring to discover who has killed the queens and save their own lives in the process. When their reluctant partnership blooms into a tenuous romance, they must overcome their own dark secrets in hope of a future together that seemed impossible just days before. But first they have to stay alive and untangle the secrets behind the nation's four dead queens. An enthralling, fast-paced murder mystery where competing agendas collide with deadly consequences. Four Dead Queens heralds in the arrival of an exciting new YA talent. So really, more than anything, this seems like a gussied-up murder mystery. And I know none of those segments that I read really had much to do with building up fantastical elements. They all were more like fake kingdom elements. But this one in particular, this premise of murder mysteries really just is not my bag. I'm not into that genre. So I think this is one of the books I'm going to be getting rid of. I have a whole stack back there of books that I should be getting rid of in some way or another. And the other book I think I'll get rid of is The Wish Granter, because I just am not feeling the, the flirtatious romance, although some of the back summary sounds more interesting to me. The world has turned upside down for Thad and Ari Glavin, the bastard twins of Sundryla's king. Their mother was murdered, the royal family died mysteriously, and now Thad sits on the throne of a kingdom whose streets are overrun with violence he can't stop. Growing up ignored by the nobility, Ari never wanted to be a proper princess, and when Thad suddenly starts training Ari to take his place, she realizes that her brother's ascension to the throne wasn't fate. It was the work of a wish-granter named Alistair Teague, who tricked Thad into wishing away his soul in exchange for the crown. So Ari recruits the help of Thad's enigmatic new weapons master, Sebastian, to help her teach her how to fight Teague. With secret ties to Teague's criminal empire, Sebastian might just hold the keys to discovering Alistair's weaknesses, saving Ari's brother and herself. But Teague is ruthless, and now he has his sights set on the princess. And if Ari can't outwit him, she'll lose Sebastian, her brother, and her soul. So, I mean, really what I like is sibling relationships, and technically I guess that actually won't be a very big part of this. It's just sort of a motivator for Ari to get her butt in gear. And finally, I will read from the back of The Girl of Fire and Thorns, because I liked the intriguing interpersonal court politics in play in that page 112. Elsa has always felt powerless, useless. Now, on her 16th birthday, she has become the secret wife of a handsome and worldly king. A king who needs her to be the chosen one, not a failure of a princess. And he's not the only one who seeks her. Savage enemies, seething with dark magic, are hunting her. A daring, determined revolutionary thinks she could save his people, and he looks at her in a way no other man has looked at her before. Eliza could be everything to those who need her most, if the prophecy is fulfilled, if she finds the power deep within herself, if she doesn't die young. Most of the chosen do. So this is one of those things, though, where, you know, I feel like this description of the leading lady is a bit overdone, you know, this chosen one motif of one powerful savior to save them all, but I'm going with page 112. Maybe there's something more in here at play. So that about covers it for me now. I've had a little bit of a difficult week, you know, whine. There's just been a lot going on at work, and my reading schedule's been falling behind a little bit, and so I do like the idea of stepping into a YA fantasy, because it can be pretty escapist, and the good ones can be really thought-provoking too, but even some bad ones hopefully are a bit of fun, adventurous fun. So that's what I'm hoping for when I go ahead to reading this book. That being said, I don't know exactly when I'm going to get to reading it, because I have such a backlog of things that I want to read, and I could just justify saying that those have been on my TBR for longer than this has, so who knows, so that's why next year I really am thinking that I have to do away with some of these reading projects that I put on myself that require me either to buy even more used books or to go to the library all the time. So I'm going to try to step off a little bit from those and do some more read your own damn books next year, and see if things go a little bit smoother. Because I don't know, I've just been feeling rather stressed lately, and guilty about rising amounts of books in the condo. So that's why I figured of the 3 YA fantasies I just picked up, I'll just keep one for the time being. So I hope all of you had great reading Septembers, whether you were reading science fiction and speculative fiction or anything else. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.